that I'm very sorry and I apologize for the inconvenience of me not giving up.
Bonjour everyone, Pantoufleee here today for a new video in which we are going to talk about positioning in World of Tanks Blitz. Basically, I'm going to try to teach you how through different type of tricks and factors you can analyze the map, the team composition and everything surrounding the battle for you to optimize your positioning, therefore doing more damage and statistically increase a little bit your win rates. So let's not lose too much time and jump directly into it, talking about the first tip. The first tip, I'm going to talk about it briefly right now in this video, but it's going to be the subject of a whole video that is coming later, probably in 1 week or two, aka knowing which sides of what map corresponds to what type of tanks. Let me give you a brief example. On this map that I completely forgot the name, I think it's Oasis Palm by memory or something like this. But anyway, on this map, when you take a look at the map, I'm going to use my mouse so you understand. This side here is the heavy side. And this side is the medium side. We don't care about tank destroyers because most of the time they will camp, so they will help both the players. And we don't care about light tanks because light tanks usually go with the mediums, therefore it's the medium side. So, on all the maps in this game, you need, and that's the first step before even jumping in that video, you must understand which side of each map corresponds to what type of tank. So as I told you, in this map, here it's the heavy side, and here it's the medium side. That being said, we can jump into it with the different factors that will help you analyzing how the map works and how to position yourself. So there we go, we're gonna launch the replay, and the first thing we do here is analyzing, and the main factor you gotta understand is analyzing your team composition. Let me explain to you what I mean. It's in two steps. First one, you take a look at what your team has. Here I have an AMX 3090, so a light tank, an AMX CDC, a medium tank, a Lover, a heavy tank, a Revalorisé, medium, Progetto, medium, T-34 2G, tank destroyer, T-71 light tank. So when it comes to analyzing the team composition, there are two questions you gotta ask yourself. The first one is, what type of class of tank in my team dominates? Here, basically, it's the light tank and mediums. We can combine both of them because they're working together. Therefore, if your main strength are the mediums and the light tanks, you want to play it on the medium and light tanks side. This is totally logic, but even if it's common knowledge for most of players, still a lot of people struggle to understand that. If you have a team mostly composed of mediums and light tanks, it's obviously logic that they will perform the best on the medium and light side, therefore increasing your chances of winning. Therefore, you should go on the medium and light side. That's the first thing. When you are over or done analyzing your team composition, you gotta also analyze the team composition of your opponents, just to see if they have possibly a team composition that will counter you. Most of the time the matchmaking is well done, and if you have 5 mediums in your team, the enemies will also have 5 mediums, so most of the time you don't really have to struggle analyzing what the enemies have. But analyzing what the enemy team has will allow you to understand where they will probably go. For example, here at the beginning of the game, let me pause the replay real quick. They have a Leo, T-44 Progetto, Type 62, so those are medium and light tanks. So they had a team mainly composed of mediums and lights. Therefore, it was obvious that they will play on the medium and light tank sides. That's what they did. And they also have IS-6 and ML2 and ISU 152. It's logic that if the whole team or the main forces of a team goes on one side, psychologically talking, the rest of the team will follow. That's why I was expecting the ML1, the IS-6 and the ISU to also come to the medium and light side. That's logic. And it worked perfectly. And doing that, you can kind of analyze where your opponents are going to be and maybe prepare yourself or hide yourself from possibly lost shells, because I was definitely expecting the IS-6 and the ISU 152 to be around here camping from that position, waiting for us to maybe poke around the corner. That's why I did not try to go uphill and I stayed between the hills to avoid getting shot. And trust me guys, doing this, it will allow you to sustain way more on the battlefield and therefore do more damage and increasing your chances of winning. Alright guys, the second tip is, and it's gonna go to the contrary of the first one I talked about. But on some maps, you do not analyze where to go. You just go to one side all the freaking time. That's the case on Middelburg. As you can see, if we take a look at the team compositions, wait, I'm gonna put it, yeah, perfect. When you take a look at the team composition, as you can see, on both teams, we have more heavies than light tanks or mediums, which means that on this map, as the heavy side is the town and the medium side is the upper part of the hill, we should all go in the town based on what I said to you previously. But it's not how it works. On some maps, there are sides that are way stronger than others, and that will give you a significant advantage if you take them. That's the case of Middelburg when it comes to the hill. When you're playing on Middelburg, you don't try to understand where to go, you just go to the hill all the freaking time. I'm not saying it's gonna guarantee you a win 100% of the time, but that's something to keep in mind. And there are several maps in this game that requires you to go to one side without even thinking about going on the other one. No, it's the case of Middelburg. All the freaking time you go to the top hill and there is no questions to ask. There are a couple of maps. I'll do a video on them as well. It's going to be in the map video subject pretty soon. But at that time, right now, I don't have the time to do it. But that's something you really got to put in your mind. In Middelburg, for example, you want to go on one side only. And therefore, you gotta understand and learn by heart all those maps on which you have to take a special position without asking yourself. Now guys, the third advice I can tell you when it comes to analyzing the team composition, etc., to know where to go, do not misunderstand, I should say, sorry, the class of tank. Let me give you an example. Yes, the AMX-50B is a heavy tank on paper, but its playstyle is definitely not a heavy tank. Therefore, sometimes when you have a team mostly composed of heavy tanks, you will be able to analyze it and tell yourself, no, okay, we have mostly heavy tanks, but they will not play on the heavy side, simply because their playstyle are closer to mediums and light tanks than the traditional heavy tank. And when you analyze the team composition, that's really something you gotta keep in mind, because with an AMX-50B, of course, I will not go to the heavy side. With a T-57 Heavy, of course, I will not go to a heavy side, simply because it's not suitable for the playstyle of the tank. You don't have any armor, you are here to support, so you would rather follow your mediums. And that's something you gotta keep in mind when it comes to analyzing, because if you don't, you are gonna do some mistakes and therefore position yourself badly on the battlefield. Now, as this replay can allow me to talk about two things. The first one being, do not misunderstand the type of tanks you're playing and your enemies are playing. But the second one is that this technique is not necessarily a 100% guaranteed. Let me explain to you briefly what I mean. Here we have in front of us a bad shot, a grill, an Object 140, a Progetto, a T-57 Heavy, T-125 and T-123. So we have two tank destroyers. We don't really care about them because those are not really impacting the matchmaking or the positioning, because tank destroyers mostly camp. But look at this, we have one Batchat, one 140 and one Progetto, so we have three mediums. If we add that to the T-57 Heavy, which should have some kind of a medium light, medium play style as well, we can analyze that in fact we have four mediums in the enemy team. So they have a team mainly composed of medium tanks. The medium side on this map is here, and the heavy side is here. So if we analyze correctly, they should have played all on this side here, on the medium side. But as you can see, that's not what happened. Why? Because sometimes people do not analyze as well as you do, and they'll do mistakes. And that's the case here. Look at how they are playing their tanks. There is the Grill 15 and the T-123 going in town. We have the T-125 already in the town, and we only have the Progetto and the 140 defending on the right side of the map for the rest of the team. And therefore, do not take it for granted. Just because you start analyzing correctly doesn't mean that sometimes you're not going to get surprised. Push one side thinking, hey, you know what, there is nobody because I analyzed the map perfectly. I know I did not make mistakes. That's 100% sure they are not here, because sometimes you are going to get surprised and completely get wrecked because you will see all the enemy team around the corner. Alright guys, now that I gave you all the information, it's time for us to put it into practice. First thing first, as I told you, analyze the map you are on. I don't remember the name of this map, maybe Malinovka or something like this, but all I can tell you is that I know that this here is the medium and light side, and this is the heavy side. That's the first thing. So we analyzed, we managed to make a difference between the light and medium side and the heavy side. That's the first step. Second step, analyzing the team composition. What do we have here? We have an Object 268, T125, T57 heavy, tireless, Leo PTA, M103, T95. So in this game, we have the same number of mediums and heavy tanks. But we could analyze that we're going to go on the heavy tanks simply because we have a T95 and T95 is way too slow to go somewhere else. Therefore, we have a team mainly composed of heavy tanks. So we will probably play it on the heavy side, which is on this map, the right side. If we take a look at what the enemies have, because it's also important to know that, they have an FV-1A3, a Tortoise, a WT, so they have 3 tank destroyers, and they have a nice 4 skill, T57 heavy and HS8. So they have a team mainly composed of heavy tanks, if we put aside tank destroyers. So we can expect them to also play it on their heavy side, which is, in contrary to us, their left, okay? So we already know where we're gonna go, and we already can think about how to counter them. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Now that we know where we're going to play it, simply because we analyze the team composition and what we have in this game, we know that the battle is going to be played on the right side. So we're going to take an advanced position to be able to counter their heavies. And you're going to see that it's going to work perfectly. So there we go with my Grill 15, and I'm playing aggressively because I'm 100% sure about my tactic. I know where those guys are gonna be. So what I'm gonna do here, and as you can see, we spot the T57 heavy. I'm 100% sure that they will play it on this side. That's totally logic. I might be wrong, but here I'm not. So what I do is now I use the strength of my tank. What is the main strength of the Grill beside its gun? It's also the mobility. So what I want to do in the beginning of the game is pushing through to be able to spot them, because they will never expect a Grill 15 to play aggressively. And there we go. We sneak the first shot on the T57 heavy and we spotted him. That's perfect. Now we only have to wait for the bait to work, and as you can see, as I told you, they are playing on the heavy side because they have a team mainly composed of heavy tanks. I mean, out of all the videos on statistics or how to win I will do, I think this one will be the most useful. Trust me, that's how I got my stats, because I know how to analyze. Look at this. I told you they were going to push IS-8, IS-4 skill. They are on the heavy side. There is pretty much the FV-1A3. They are not spotted yet, but I'm 100% sure that there is the WT, the Tortoise, and the FV-1A3 camping from the tank destroyer position on the map. So exactly here. Let me show you. Let me show you what I mean. I'm 100% sure, as we have the heavies here, they have the heavies here. I'm 100% sure that the FV-1A3, the Tortoise, and the WT are camping here, because that's the traditional position. One thing I forgot to tell you, you need to know all the positions there is to know about the game, all the most popular positions with heavy tanks, tank destroyers, etc. Mainly tank destroyers, because if all their team go on this side, which is the heavy side, we can expect the tank destroyers to camp, but from a position that will allow them to help from the heavy side, which is here. Okay, let's go back to the replay. So there we go. We are sticking, we stick to what we're doing, and oh, I was right. Oh, I was even more right. As I told you, Tortoise and FV-1A3 are camping from their tank destroyer position from the heavy side. I know it can be a little bit complex to understand like that, but trust me, as you will master it more and more and use it into battle, it's gonna become an automatism for you to use, and after you will be able to get 4, 5, 6k damage quite easily, because when you analyze and when you prevent your enemies, when you know where people are going, you can counter them. If you counter them, you have amazing games, and you will climb up to 2.5k average damage quite easily. Let's say that it's an intellectual way of thinking based and applied on different factors on the game, and it works. It works. For the moment, we're already at 4.4k damage. We spotted our own targets, and there is nothing they can do. And why there is nothing they can do? Because we countered them. And if you counter, there is no way your opponents will know how to react, except of course if they are super unicorns as well, and that they know how to react and how to counter this kind of way of thinking. But it's not gonna happen. I mean, it's gonna happen 2 times out of 100 battles or something like this. So there we go for the moment. We are around, we are sneaking our shots, and the replay is nearly done. And we did most of the spotting, most of the damage, and we helped our team winning simply because we knew how to play and we knew how to counter them. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope that it will help you learning how to play the game correctly. But out of all the advices I can give you, this or those I gave you in this video are the most helpful, because that's the only way for you to actually become an extremely skilled player. If you enjoyed, feel free to subscribe, like and share, and I'm gonna see you soon for a new video. Au revoir.